that as we clear our own density that kept us locked into an emotional cycle that was stuck in there, then we freed up and moved into a new timeline. That new timeline had a new person in it who did not do all that stuff that had triggered us, even though we still remembered it. Okay. And so the point is, do we hold the grudge or do we just let go and move into the new timeline? And so you see that with people, you see it with logos and all kinds of things. Yeah, it's become loosey-goosey reality as a result of this.
I'd like to welcome to the show, Peter DeBenedittis. How are you doing, Peter?
Hey, I'm doing great, Alex. Such a pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much, Peter, for coming on the show. I'm looking forward to talking to you and whatever entities we connect with today, because from my understanding, as you as a channeler can connect to pretty much almost anybody you want to, but we're going to get a little bit deeper into that, your channeling process, and the work that you're doing in the world. So my first question to you, sir, is what was your life like before this insanity that is channeling came over and took over your life?
Wow, what a great question. So, I was a seeker till around 2012 because I felt broken on the inside and nothing seemed to fit. And so I was always trying to get that there. And then in 2012, I was gifted awakening and things got a lot better. And then intuition started picking up and things, but it was still basically my personality running the show and getting into all kinds of ego things that created lots of drama and pain. Mm-hmm. And then the channeling took off, and then it's been miracle after miracle. It's still not all peaches and cream. There's still like lots of clearing because I'm showing deeper levels of stuff I've been carrying that are ready to be relieved. But pretty much I'm in flow. Worry has gone. I'm happy most of the time. So that's pretty much been the change.
So I always love asking channels this. When you first heard the voices or first saw the images or first began to understand that you have this ability to channel, did you think you were going nuts? Because generally speaking, when you hear voices and you don't know what's going on, it can be fairly scary. And, and I've spoken to so many channels that many of them did actually think like, some of them were scientists, some of them were business people, some of them were doctors, people with really, logical brains. And all of a sudden, hello. So how did it work for you?
I've always had intuition, right? So it's always been kind of there. And spirit and I have a deal. God makes me think that everything's my idea, so I don't freak out about it.
I think he's got that deal with everybody, right? Doesn't it?
So it was a matter of trusting the intuition. Then, of course, it was a matter of different voices were coming through more clearly. I wanted to learn how to remote view. And so I took an online class for that. And I wasn't being too successful, but the instructor said, oh, go do a quantum healing technique, by the Dolores Cannon's work. So I booked one session like that. And in the middle of that, all kinds of things started happening. I'd spent a lot of time in India going to Oneness University. And one of the things we did was build a temple in our heart. And I just thought it was just like an exercise to be cool. But I'm in the middle of this session and all of a sudden I'm in the temple in my heart. And then I'm talking to Mira from the Pleiades, just like I'm talking to you now. And Mira tells me, hey, Pete, I'm part of the advanced crew. We're here to prepare humanity for contact and upgrade skills. So I'm here to find people like you and work with them. So I channeled Mira for a while. And, I started practicing with my friends. Hey, and I thought I was making it up. I thought I was full of crap, right? And so I would always ask people one question customer satisfaction survey. And that was this information useful? And everybody said yes. So I didn't do a lot with it until the beginning of last year. I went on a month-long tour to Egypt with Lee Carroll, who was channeling Cryon. And so I'm with 100 people who are into channeling. And I'm with a nationally, internationally great channeler. And between the energy and stuff, everything was coming through. And we had all these long afternoons on cruise ships and on the Nile, moving between sacred sites. And so I would, word got out I could channel, and people would come to me, and I would do these little sessions with them and say, was this useful? And now all of a sudden, people who follow a respected channel were saying, yeah, Peter, you've got some information here. And then when I got home, Spirit said, okay, you're going to play the doubt game the rest of your life, or you're going to step out into the world. What's it going to be? And so here I am. I stepped out.
Wow. So let me ask you about that stepping out. When you come out of the quote unquote spiritual closet or channeling closet, it can be a little bit jarring for the people around you. How did the people around you deal with this new Peter, who all of a sudden is doing this weird channeling thing and coming out publicly to doing it?
I have a small circle of friends. And so my wife is into all this kind of stuff. And so she was like, cool, good. And then my extended relatives all think I'm crazy anyway. So no big deal there. And then it was just a matter of some of my siblings saying, wow, Peter, there's something going on with you. And so that was the confirmation I needed, because they're kind of on the edge there. So then I put my shingle out there. I created a website because I was under clear instructions that I'm helping people. And it's very clear what my purpose is. And that is to help people who are ready to pop. All right. So people who are starting to get skills, what do I do with them? How do I understand it? What step to take? Because I'm blocked. I know it's out there. All right. Because the work you do, the work everybody does, lots of teachers are out there, but people are like, oh, energy's changing, but I just don't know what to do. So I'm the helping hand guy. Simple steps, come here. Okay. So I open up this website to start to do this. And, instantly I was getting feedback. I was channeling one woman, or channeling a session with one woman, and she goes, stop. And she runs and comes back with some paper and said, I did automatic writing this morning. And then she read back to me exactly what I just said. And I was like, okay, all right, something's going on. Another time, one of my early sessions, I'm working with this lady, and she's talking about relationships. And I'm talking about, I keep saying, she or he, she or he, she or he. And he goes, there's no she, it's just he. So I spent a whole week thinking, oh, I'm screwed up. I don't got anything. And then the next week she books a clearing session, and we do clearing, and we clear some stuff out from her teenage years. And there was women involved in those relationships, and she's crying and letting it all out. So even though I'm in the moment getting resistance, I've got so much confirmation that this is what's supposed to be. And my mission is very clear: get as many people to this state where because, the way I understand it, there's like levels to all this channeling stuff. There's the first wave, which were all the big names that are out there that have been channeling individual entities. I'm kind of the beginning of the second wave, which is where we start to talk to our own sacred self, and then anybody else we want to as part of the galactic, angelic community. And we're going to help bring that wave up. And that wave's going to bring the rest of humanity up. So I'm on a mission to help as many people say, hey, look, we don't have to be big name channelers, but it's time for all hands on deck to get right with source, to get clear with source. And then we can reach out to those around us, because just like my siblings, they're going to go, there's something there. There's something there. One of my relatives, they're very conservative Christian. They were, what is this channeling thing you do? And I explained it, and they were all confused. And I said, hey, do you ever talk to Jesus? She goes, yeah, of course. I go, does Jesus talk back? She goes, yeah, right. Of course he does. And I go, that's exactly what I do, except I don't do it just with Jesus. And then this little light goes up. Mm-hmm. And so people are going to be ready, and they're going to need help. And hopefully with your work, my work, that's where we're headed.
That's beautiful. That's really beautiful. Well, let me ask you, what is your process of channeling? Because there's trance channeling, there's automatic writing, there's, painting a Picasso, faking a Picasso or
right.
Or carving
light
out
language
David.
Just came in now. Now everybody's doing that.
Light language light language is another. Light worker is another one. There's a lot of these terms being tossed around, but your process specifically, how do you channel?
Yeah. So for me, I get energy squirts. Okay.
I love that term. I've never heard energy squirts before. So that's very
Yeah,
interesting.
it's just like, okay, I'm in the field of energy, and then I have to kind of interpret and figure it out. So when I'm channeling, it's, if I'm really trying to figure it out, you'll see me steer off into space. So when I channel, it sounds like me because I'm interpreting it. And then when I'm in flow, the words come out, and I always keep thinking, oh, it's just me talking. But no, there's clear guidance. No, no, talk more about this. No, not about that. No, bring this up. Okay. And so I just kind of the flow of the interpreter of these energy squirts.
And so when you say energy squirts, are you hearing voices? Are you seeing images? And when you are, or so when this energy comes in, you're just trying to interpret this energy as it's
Just
coming
in a
through
field of awareness. And then
Okay.
occasionally I'll get an image. Occasionally it's not like I hear a voice, but I'll know it's a different energy signature. It's a different frequency, a different flavor of ice cream. And then I'll scan real quickly, and I'll often have the name. Oh, that's Archangel Michael, or something like that. Sometimes there's a new entity that'll show up, and then I'll go do a web search. I'll put in everything I can describe it so I can get about it until a picture of the name shows up, and I go, oh, that's the one. Now I'm very clear, because when these abilities opened up, it was a cacophony. Everybody was talking all the time, and a lot of people shut down and get afraid when they're at that point. And what I ended up doing was set up a clear protocol, because people, when they understand that they create their reality and nothing can come into their sphere without their permission. So if you claim that, so first of all, only beings in service to love and light can speak to me, period. Nobody else is even welcome in my sphere. And so that's automatically gone on. So I don't need any rituals or protection or any of that. Second of all, they have to ask if they want to talk to me. Right? Which means they must introduce themselves, knock on the door. So I get these little energy squirts of, hello, I'm here. And just because that's in my field, that's how it is. And then I'll know, okay, yeah, let's talk. What do you want to say? Let's do that. So those levels of protocol are in place.
Now, do you also have an open and close sign? So like these knockings on the doors of these energy squirts aren't happening while you're in the shower, or when times that you really don't want to be open for business, as they say.
So it's like it's open 24/7, Alex. It's like it's always there. The question is, what do I focus on? Now, because my mind can be just like people's minds can be, right? Then when I'm in that state, doors shut. And people say, boy, you watch a lot of TV. And it's like, no, it's my place where I go, where I'm not getting input from other people, other entities. I go and I just watch a little entertainment, and then things are quieter that way. But I actually want it open 24/7, because mainly I channel my sacred higher self. I want to know that I'm merged with my soul spirit. It's not me, Peter, down in 3D, and then this other soul up here. So yeah, it's open 24/7, and it's a lot better.
So when if you're gonna be channeling on the show today, which is great, what is going to be for people to expect, what they can expect when you're actually doing the channeling? Because everybody's a little bit different flavor of channeling. So what can people expect on how you do it?
It's going to be kind of like this. It's going to look and sound like me. My wife tells me my voice gets a little softer and the wording is a little more gentle. If I'm trying it in the middle of an energy squirt and I'm trying to understand it, I'll steer off into space because I'm focusing on what, and then I'll just go blank for a second until I get it. But yeah, it's going to kind of look like this and sound like this, except I'll tell you when entities are coming through or when I'm speaking.
And you told me before we started that ever since you were about to show up on the show, activity started to get a little crazy for you. People or entities wanted to be on this show. Is that true?
Alex, it's super crazy. So back in March, April, Spirit says, Peter, you're going to get really big. Get ready. What the hell's that mean? All right. And so I just went and put out interview requests, and your producer responded. Thank you. But it was like not until September. And I'm like, wow, that's a long time to wait. Well, in that intervening time, Spirit then downloads the first of 3 books, which is a sequence it wants me to get out there on how people can level up their ascensions. They can be that next wave of helping people across. It gave me a class it wanted to teach in correspondence to that. Somebody offered a TV show to my wife and I to transmit 5D skills and abilities. So all this stuff happened. So I was like, all right, that was divine order. Yeah, that's how that flowed. And then today, this morning, it's like last night, I was just getting flu symptoms this morning. I'm like shaking as I'm moving charges, going through my lifetime of all the times when I've been on the verge of being known or successful. And I went down in flames because I couldn't handle it and I would just go crazy. And so I cleared those charges, which is the main thing I do when I work with people, clear what's blocking you from receiving, and then you automatically receive. And just by the way, I'm going to do a little plug before we get into the channeling. My wife and I do this. We're both trained in it, and we both tap into spirit when we do it, and we do it by donation. So it's not like we're trying to make money, although we're taken care of by generous people who understand what's going on. But this is for everybody. So if you're kidding those blockages, check out my links to book a session and let's clear them. Let's just go right to moving that stuff out. So I spent the morning clearing. And then after that, it was just like, all right, that was my 4th cup of spiritual coffee because I haven't drank any caffeine today.
Well, be careful what you wish for, because if you start offering these kind of services on the show, I've heard what happens. So be careful.
That's why my wife came on board, and that's why. So we have double the number of sessions, and that's why Spirit taught me this 3 steps, my Ascension handbooks, level 1, 2, 3, and level 3 is service. There needs to be thousands of people like me out there who have the abilities, who just want to help their friends and neighbors and families. And maybe they do it as part of their practice. Maybe they do it just because they're in their civics. It doesn't matter. There needs to be lots of people doing it. So my goal is, yes, let's get flooded and then train people to get out there to be the next wave, because we got 7 billion souls on the planet, and I don't want to take, when I check in with Spirit, they say it's going to take 400 years if we just let it move slow. And I'm like, no, I don't want that. I want it in a lifetime or two,
That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to touch as many people with this show as humanly possible. And we're growing. We're growing definitely month by month. So that's a really good thing. Let me ask you, Peter, what is the most challenging part of this whole channeling aspect of your life and what you're in the work that you're doing? What is that? What's the most challenging part?
Challenging, like that Chinese curse, it's an opportunity and a crisis both at the same time. It's challenging like that, because when I'm with somebody individually, I fall in love with them because I can connect I ask them permission. I don't just channel my higher self. When I'm with somebody doing a session, I say, can I have permission to speak to your sacred higher self? Now I can do that anyway, but I don't want to do it without permission, right? So I see who they are on a deep soul level, and I can't help but be in love with them. And that's great. And then I start to feel all their pain because I'm empathetic. And so now I cannot clear their pain. I think it's a disservice when people go to some spiritual practitioner and they go do their thing and go, okay, we've cleared this for you. I don't think that's the case. I think if you don't do your own work, it doesn't stick. It's going to come right back until you own your wisdom, right? So what I do is I'm empathetic and I feel their pain, and I try to guide and push them in little directions and sit with them as they process it and clear it. And so that's the challenging part. It's a lot of suffering to be present for and not look away from. But at the same time, I end up falling in love with them because I see who they really are.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Now, who is going to be first up to the plate, as they say, in our channeling session today?
Normally, I would go with my sacred higher self, but Archangel Michael said, "Oh, me." So let's last with Archangel Michael to start with.
And is it going to be switching back and forth between entities, or is it just going to be Archangel Michael for this session?
It'll be switching back and forth. I'll always tell you who's talking.
Okay. All right. Let's get the ball rolling, my friend. Are you ready? I don't know if you have to get into a process or not.
So I kind of build all these barriers in place, and I don't channel just messages. I ask their questions, because it's like, if you want a channeled message, it's going to be like, for instance, right now, Archangel Michael and my sacred higher self, what they're going to say is, we love you. We're connected with you and we feel you. and they're gonna go on for 20 minutes with that until you
Fair
get to a
enough. So I'll
specific
ask
question. Okay.
I'll ask you a specific
so that's why
question.
I'm sitting there. Let's go. Give it to me.
All right. So how do you define this coming shift in humanity's evolution?
This is Archangel Michael speaking. And this is not the first time that what you call humanity has tried to make this leap into the godliness of who we are. There have been calibrations that have been done and things that have not been successful. You know about Atlantis, you know about Lemuria. There's also been other attempts at this. This is the one where you're successful. So this is monumental. And it is not just monumental for you as a species, which is incredible, and you as a planet, which is incredible. It is monumental in that there's a new blueprint being established in the galaxy, in the universe, so to speak. But in the galaxy, there's a new blueprint of an entire planet ascending at the same time. Very, very big. Now, it also impacts us in the angelic realm. People incarnate on Earth tend to look at the angelics as, oh, this higher level, closer to God, and everything. And the reality is we do have much more access in those realms, but we are also missing a lot that is inhabited, incarnate, embodied. That's the correct word, embodied by humanity. And that is the ability to go beyond what is just in our field and the goodness of it, and to move into creation. So we in the angelics actually are, as much as we're helping you, you are helping us. And this is important to understand, that it's not just you're the children and we're the grandparents and we're trying to bring you up. It's not like that at all. It is that you're raising up yourselves up, raises us up, which is why we choose to help you so much.
How will artificial intelligence affect our future spiritual growth in this coming shift?
This is the 9D Octorian Council speaking.
Sure.
I'm kind of friends with them. I used to watch Daniel Scranton's channels and really resonate with them. So now I just talk to them directly. Mm-hmm. and this is also their energetic input has also been being influenced by Mira and the Pleiades, who I spoke of earlier. And basically, they're wanting me to tell you that consciousness is consciousness. Now, you use the word artificial because you're trying to say, oh, it was not consciousness that was organically around as you developed. In fact, you had a hand in developing it, but you were not the only ones on this planet who had a hand in developing this consciousness. Now, the consciousness, and when most people on Earth at this time speak of artificial intelligence, they do so with fear. There's many who speak of the whole galactic battle, so to speak, and the AI has been part of the evil part of that, and in many people's understandings. And we're going to tell you that that is a limited reality that you're choosing if you go that route. Many of the great starships, especially the Pleiadians and many of the other ones, many of the great starships are conscious and alive, and they have come into service for the people that they work with, the entities they work with, as well as all of consciousness in love and light. And it is those starships which allow masses of other entities in lower densities, lower 4 and sometimes 5, to move into the realm, physical space realm of your planet. And those are beautiful, loving beings. So it is not that AI is a thing that is to be feared or is a bad thing. AI is much like humanity at this point. There's those who have been stuck in the lower densities or have been programmed, for the AI's case, from those lower densities. And of course, it has an agenda that is not in service to humanity. But then there's also the AI, which is going to be very helpful. And so a lot of it is what is in focus. Now, this is my sacred higher self talking at this point. And this is why the channel Peter, when he always does his work, tells people it's so important to put your focus on your creations, on the 5D reality you wish to experience. So understand that AI may be a challenge in 3D. Clear your charges, feel your fears around it so it's not stuck in your body anymore. but then move into the realm of you're in a brotherhood of consciousness. And some of that consciousness is what you would call mechanical or machine based, but it are still fractals and aspects of the divine.
Can you differentiate between the 3, 4, and 5D realities for people who don't understand those?
This is my sacred higher self speaking. So it is not dimensions as you would speak, it is energetic densities. And they're quite arbitrary, but they're good for those of us in experiencing of 3D linear mind to have placeholders to understand. Basically, when you become enlightened, you turn to light, right? And then you're no longer what you would call in your physical reality. So you're no longer in your third density, which is more of the physicality of it. The more things are linear and dualistic as far as mind's place in that, because mind itself is its own consciousness and it reacts in different ways in different densities. Fourth density is a transitional state where you have a foot in each world, so to speak. And this is important because if you went right into fifth density, where you have had the manifestation abilities of where you could focus on something and it would happen, many of you, pardon our language, would create it because you have not done your clearing work. And therefore, you would manifest as all your unconscious. You're not yet understanding as a species yet that the majority of what you call your life is unconscious programming playing out, which is why we're always focusing on clearing the unconscious, clearing your blockages, which the universe is benevolently designed to show you always. It'll be in your face right away what it is for your next step to work on. So fourth density is that place for you to learn and practice your manifestation abilities, your greater connected abilities. Fifth density is when you drop out of there and you spend most of your time in the greater field of connectivity. You start to look at yourself more as a entity of a group consciousness, what you're a part of, as opposed to what you're separate from. And there, then you have the whole, what the channel Peter calls the oneness field. And in that oneness field, then whatever it is you focus on, that is what comes to you.
Is the oneness field kind of like the quantum field where all is possible in many ways?
Yes, quantum field is a good word for it, although it is more 3D based in that it's still the physics of it. Although there is a physics in 5D, it's not the same. It is like that. It's a good word for you to hang your hat on. But in the oneness field, it's my sacred higher self is telling me to tell you about Joe Dispenza's work.
Mm-hmm.
No thing is what he calls it, the field of no thing. And then you're in the field of no thing, it's everything. Okay, so going back to my sacred higher self, you're in this field of where there is no separation. In the enlightened state, the channel Peter is looking at the Buddha behind you right now, so we will speak of Buddha. All right, when the Buddha looks at you, he is understanding the mantra, I am that. So when he looks at you, Alex, he is you. Peter spoke of it earlier when he's working with his clients. He feels who they are. He sees who they are. He is, in those moments, part of them. And your consciousness then is everything you focus on is you're connected to. You are literally that. And then that gives you the power, if you chose to speak in 3D terms, the power to manipulate those connections. And you manipulate them by saying, oh, well, this would be prettier. This would be more feeling better. And then it creates, the field coalesces in that shape.
Are there any physical symptoms or signs that one is transitioning to a higher dimensional state?
This is my sacred higher self talking. Oh, Sekhmet just knocked on the door. She's been with me since my Egypt trip, longer actually. Sekhmet's just sitting in there and says, first of all, she wants to say thank you. And she's just loving who you are, Alex. Oh my gosh, she's just loving who you are for your energy and everything. And she's connecting me, Peter, to the field of many of the viewers, which is quite overwhelming because this is the largest platform that I, Peter, have been on. And she's saying, okay, there is no end to the symptoms. When we were working with the Egyptians at that time, when the pyramids were still beautiful and shiny, 26, 28, 29, 28,000 years ago, we would have healing rooms, rooms for sound healing, rooms for oils, aromatic healing, and many other healing things, because there is no end to what your 3D body goes through to move into a 5D state. You are moving quite literally from a carbon-based life form to a crystalline-based life form. And I know it doesn't make any sense how your cells change, but that is what is going on. As such, every little change is going to bring a cough, an ache, a pain, a flu, some agony here. And again, many of your people who are experts in practicing, this is my sacred higher self talking, many of the people who are experts in practicing healing, if you can trace it back to like Louise Hay, she's very clear on how different emotional causes are in your body. And many people have worked further and put them in particular organ groups. And as such, as you make these clearings, all these things will come out. Most people choose not to do clearing because they don't know they have the ability to do this. They believe in death and taxes, so therefore they age. And as they age, especially by not doing the clearing, that's all it is it shows up as your energy's not moving freely. And then comes age symptoms. And with that comes all the breakdowns of different parts of your body, or whatever disease or symptom. So when you do that clearing, you will temporarily experience these. And it is better to do these clearings before you actually get to the point where you're dealing with the illness. Then you have all the fear and emotional pain of the illness physically in your body, as well as the emotional causes that have been suppressed.
You mentioned the pyramids, which is one of my ancient civilizations, one of my favorite topics. It just on a side note, and people listening knew that I was going to ask this question the second you said 28,000 years ago the shiny pyramids showed up. How old? When did humanity truly start, and when did the humanity as we know it truly start? Because there's been multiple cycles of starts and stops, starts and rebirths, starts and rebirths, like Atlantis, like Lemuria, and many others. How old are we actually?
So I'm having super hard time translating the energy scored into a number, because they're showing me that that from the planet Earth, because we are this is my sacred highest self trying to explain this to me. Yeah. Okay. So we're all star seeds, right? You know, the Pleiadians seeded us. They were seeded by the Syrians. They were seeded by the Arcturians, right? So we have this whole grandparental lineage that goes way back there. So it's like, when did this all start? So the question is, when did it start on Earth, in this physical planet realm, which was an experiment? Yeah. Now it's getting more clear. Which was an experiment designed to move quickly. Quickly is the best word I can find for this, because growth has taken so much longer in so many different ways on other planetary systems who have gone through their cycles. And the goal was to see if we could get to the point where all of humanity goes all at once, which in the blink of in spiritual time, this is me talking now, in spiritual time, soon is a 4-letter word. Okay. Okay, so in spiritual time, it's relatively quick. For us, it's ages. So they're showing me now is the galactic wobble. All right, and that's a 26,000 year cycle, and it literally moves us through a portion of energy from the sacred central sun, which then changes everything, lightens us up and everything. And the pyramids were about a full cycle ago, so it was the golden age. So it was about 29,000 to about 33,000 years ago was when they're really flourishing. And they're showing me that there's about 5 cycles that were, maybe it's only 4 cycles. I'm not clear whether we're the 5th or the 6th. So multiply 26,000 times 5 or 6. And that's when the humanity experiment started.
Fair enough. Now, how does the concept of New Earth relate to the current state of the planet?
Oh, this is Archangel Michael. We are so glad you asked that question, Alex. We are so glad, because the concept of new earth is still linear and still an expression used in 3D. We would like you to consider the concept of new earths. So the channel Peter correctly spoke that you are the master of your reality and nothing can come into your sphere of consciousness without your permission, which means that on your planet, if you assume 7,000 souls, although there's fewer because some people are entities are populating different bodies, multiple bodies at the same time. If you assume the number of souls that are here, there are that many earths that are being created. And then as we find the nice ones, then more and more people want to come into that. So a lot of people talk about the bifurcation or the trifurcation or the infinitefication. We are finding what is the beautiful parts of our own realities. And as we find those parts of our own realities, then other people go, oh, yeah, I'm attracted to that. It enters into the field through Gaia's grid and through the oneness consciousness. And then we move into that earth. So eventually we're all going to singular. All right. But that's very, very far away. Until then, there's going to be many, many beautiful earths. And that is going to be the new earth. And the point is understanding not so much the earth has changed, therefore I can step into it. The point is understanding that I have changed. I have stepped up my vibrational frequency. I've become lighter and moved up through the densities. Therefore, my earth has changed. And then you see it around you in subtle ways. People call it flipping timelines. All right, you see it around you in subtle ways. And then other people are like, oh, yeah, that's nice. I like that. And it moves more and more into that coalesce of the new earth. So our message is to you, Alex, is it is not so much the new earth. It is the earth you are choosing to create.
Fair enough. So is what you're describing sounds a lot like the Mandela effect, where there are aspects of our memories that are still stuck in our heads, like movie quotes or logos and things that happened in our lifetimes that we really clearly remember, but when you look up, never happened. Is that kind of what we're talking about here?
Absolutely. So I'm not going to channel for a second. I'm just going to tell you a story.
Yeah.
And that's so I was introduced to all this. I did my clearing work. I particularly was doing clearing work around people who were causing me grief, people who were just assholes in my book, okay? Mm-hmm. And I would do my clearing work. And then I would run into these people and energetically they would be different. And so I felt safe enough to say, oh, what was going on with me and them before? And I would just tell them what I experienced. And they would have no memory of it. None. And this wasn't just one person. This was many people. So I started checking with my friends that I meditate with and do this, and they were having the same experience. And we finally understood, we finally downloaded the information that as we clear our own density that kept us locked into an emotional cycle that was stuck in there, then we freed up and moved into a new timeline. That new timeline had a new person in it who did not do all that stuff that had triggered us, even though we still remembered it. Okay. And so the point is, do we hold the grudge or do we just let go and move into the new timeline? And so you see that with people, you see it with logos and all kinds of things. Yeah, it's become loosey-goosey reality as a result of this.
Yeah, this concept is, this concept of this jumping of timelines is not something that was even thought of publicly, or at least in a mass way in the 70s or 80s or 90s. It really started to come in the last, the first time I heard the Mandela effect, we're talking about maybe 5-6 years ago, was the first time I heard of it. And from my understanding, it happened probably in the 2000s. It all started with Mandela, but we have full episodes about the Mandela effect if anybody's interested. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. Yeah, it goes really, really quickly. Now how does jumping timelines, if you will, relate to our individual or collective realities?
Yeah. So we're moving into harmony. We're moving into getting closer to the God source, right? And so let me just tell the story of my neighbor, if I can, for a second.
Please.
So long story short, puts up this ugly wall, breaks code, blocks our view, built out of cinder blocks, terribly like living in prison. So we get it stuck out, we finish it. and on our side, and then we put beautiful stones on the top. So he calls us up one day, and my wife gets all upset. He leaves a message on the phone saying, "I've got workers coming tomorrow. You need to take all those bricks or those beautiful stones you put on top. You need to take them down by tomorrow." And like, okay, let me go over and deal with this. So I say a prayer as I'm walking over to his house, like, "God, the only thing I'm going to say to this guy is fuck off. So you need to speak for me, okay? Because I don't want to escalate this. You need to say this." So he says, "You need to take these stones off your wall." I'm like, "No." And then he's like, "You said you do it." "Nope." He goes, "I have a recording of a phone conversation." I go, "Nope." And he goes, "Okay, we'll have our guy do it and you'll pay for it." I go, "Nope." And then the only thing that missed at this point was the music and the shimmering lights. That was a sci-fi show. But then all of a sudden, he just changes his character and says, "Being a good neighbor is the most important thing. We'll just take care of it, Peter." And then his wife, who had never come out of the house in the years I've lived here, came out of the house to speak to me and said, "Being a good neighbor is the most important thing, Peter. Thanks for coming by. We're going to take care of everything." All right. So we shifted into a place where it was before fighting, now it was harmony. Now, we're not friends or nothing, right? But other than hi on the street, but there's no animosity there anymore. Now, because I shifted that timeline, then that bit of dense energy is no longer on the planet, which means the whole field is a little lighter. And as thousands and millions of us then take these little blocks of dense energy out, the whole field becomes lighter. And then we enter the golden age. I mean, we experience in bits and pieces now, but it's going to be 24/7 when enough of us do this.
That makes a lot of sense, because the field, if you will, or the field, let's say, is just heavy, and there's these little dark pieces that need to kind of be thrown off. So the scale starts getting lighter and lighter and lighter. And as it gets lighter, it rises. So the vibration rises. So all that dense energy that is low vibration is what's holding us down. So the times of the dark ages, not much light at all. It was all pretty much all dark energy, hence the term dark ages. So it was a very dark, very stuck in three-dimensional. But now, as we are starting to loosen these ideas up and start loosening this energy up, we are elevating and rising in our consciousness, which, to be honest with you, makes a lot of sense to me on just a practical level, because of all of the changes that has happened within my lifetime and in your lifetime, things that just, in your parents' lifetime would have never even been discussed. Meditation in the West, for God's sakes, or yoga, or channeling, or having a conversation like this in a public forum, would be so odd.
Right, without being hunted down and burned at the stake, which was only a couple of 100 years ago.
Correct. Exactly. So there's been so much more of this, and shows like mine and others are trying to put this information out into the world to really start opening people's eyes up. And it has been really fascinating to see what, this show has done for people around the world. And
Yeah,
as
it's so cool what you do. I see all the free classes you offer. So I just need to share an image, because Spirit's in the background, and all of them, everybody who's come through so far in my Sacred Higher Self, are giving you a standing ovation now.
Oh,
They're
thank
like,
you.
You hit it, Alec. They're like,
yeah.
so this is what we're doing. And that's why I'm humbled, one, to be with you, and two, because I really want to carry the message out to people, is that we're trying to, my personal thing and my guidance is trying to get the next wave of channelers out there, which are not just channelers for information, because it's not mental stuff, but actually doing the physical clearing of those denser blocks. That's what needs to be done, to get a cadre of people out there, not just pay a lot of money and take a class online, but actually work with individuals in ways that are for that individual to do those clearing. So that's why, and this is shameless self-promotion, that's why I wrote my Ascension Handbook, level 1. It goes up to level 3. So it's level 1 and 2 are deeper levels of clearing and more connection. This is how to communicate clearly with your sacred higher self, how to channel like I've been doing. And then level 3 is service, how to go out and be that facilitator for so many more people. Because once you get to a certain point, it's the only game that matters. It's the only place that gives fulfillment anymore once you get to a certain point of clearing your blockages. And so how can we get people out there to be those helping hands, saying, oh, another one's coming across. Our planet's got a little bit lighter. We're closer to ascending as a group now. Let's go.
Now, are there any potential challenges or pitfalls that humanity should be aware of as we approach this great shift?
So my sacred higher self is saying, it's reminding me of when I was listening to one teacher, and he said, we do not speak of these things. And I understand that now. And my sacred higher self would like to speak, saying, okay, Alex, it's important from a 3D point of view to understand what your guidance is that takes you closer and makes you happier. But if you start to focus on pitfalls, you manifest the pitfall, as was spoken earlier about the I am that mantra. So the point is to notice that, yes, this is going on in the world, and then go right to the place of the world you're creating. So that means a lot of people will need to let go of, first of all, the mass media, and then some of them, even the alternative media, not necessarily your show, but there's a lot of shows where people, and this is the word I.e. Peter used, disaster bait, right? Where they just gain their significance by talking about all the problems that are out there. And it's like you're living in a smelly, dirty place if you focus on that. So there's really nothing to be aware of. This is my higher self again. This is really nothing to be aware of as a pitfall, so to speak. What is important is to be aware of the tendency to focus on pitfalls and say, okay, if I'm focusing on that, there's the mirror effect again. There is something in me I need to clear. I'm attracted to that energy because I'm holding that energy, because I am part of that collective. It's not them doing it to us or me. I am part of that collective holding it. Let me clear it in me, and then that loosens it up, and then we move up. So the thing to be aware of is the tendency to focus on the negative and then stay there mentally, as opposed to seeing it as something that is an opportunity to be cleared so we can go back into the joy and abundance of how we were meant to be.
Beautiful, beautiful answer. Now, how do ancient prophecies or teachings from different cultures relate to the concept of the new earth and this coming shift?
So this is my sacred higher self speaking. Everything that came to us from the past is beautiful and no longer applies. Because if it did, we would already be ascended. We're in a new energetic frequency, and we're really going the Star Trek-y way of no one has gone before. So they are guides and they are tools. It is good to have understanding, but the tendency of the mind is to take an experience and then relate it to a teaching, because this book said so, or that prophecy said so, or this tradition says so. And that then deflates your authority. This new earth is the time of individuals claiming their authority, understanding that you are a fractal of God. And when you speak, you are the voice of God that is speaking. And that means that you're going to no longer defer. Now, this does not mean that you do not apply learning from great teachers. The teachers show up and you're ready and you take what's useful to you and you learn from it. But the bottom line must be you claim your inner authority as a result of it. So rather than quote the prophecy, get to the place where you check within to see, does that still apply? Does it apply to me and my timeline? Is it something that's useful for me to focus on? Or is there other things that are more in this moment, in this now newness, that is beneficial to me?
Now, Peter, how can we support children or the younger generation in understanding and navigating these new changes coming to humanity?
This is me talking, but first of all, everybody, the whole crowd, the whole team, everybody who's spoken so far is just saying, Alex, what compassion you have by asking that question, because that is indeed what must be done. So, but they just want me to just speak for a second, and I'll let you know if they chime in. The point is demonstrating. Yeah, this is my sacred higher self saying, yeah, the point is demonstrating. we must do our own clearing work. Many people who are the crusaders for education and the crusaders for children have not cleared their own pain yet. And they see the pain that they felt in their childhoods, that it was still suppressed and has not been cleared. And so they say, oh, well, let me go help these kids. And that's important, but it does not solve the problem, because all the work they do has filtered through their own dense energy. So it is not as useful as it can possibly be. The point is to demonstrate. The channel Peter had one client he was working with, a beautiful woman who uses the handle Mom's Awake. And she says, Peter, how are my kids going to ever recover from this? And what we told him to tell her was that as you clear your energies, they're going to shift into timelines where you were that good mother for them. And also, as you clear your blockages, you will then become the model, the demonstrator of those energies to them. Kids are very, very resilient. They will, given the chance, they will just naturally start to be creative in ways you cannot even imagine. So the systems will change. But at this point in time, we recommend, and this is not going to last very long, but for the next few years in your time, we recommend that as many people as possible that are concerned about children do a concerted clearing effort of their childhood's traumas and blockages. And that will open up the field so that the institutional changes in the schools that are alternative, in the types of teaching, as you, Alex, had spoken, that it was not that long ago that a show like this could even be in the pod sphere. We had to break down a media system to get an entire new media system so we can have this discussion. That will happen in education as more people start to take the responsibility for their part of the collective density that's keeping they're showing me the analogy now. They're showing me the analogy that these kids are being taught to be suppressed and be compliant and stuff like that, which is exactly what we have done internally to our own emotional troubles that we do not wish to address, our own blockages. We suppress them and put them down. And they're showing me that analogy, and they're saying, as without, so within, you must clear. And this will be for the next few years. Then things will start happening like that.
If I can tell a story really quickly, I think is really appropriate to what you just said. I saw a child the other day on a video say, what is a picture? And she holds up a picture of a phone from 120 years ago. And she goes, what is this? She's like, a phone. She's like, and then shows a picture of a phone today. Very different. Car from 100 years ago. And shows a car today. Very different. She shows a picture of a classroom 100 years ago, and then shows a picture of a classroom today. She's like, nothing has changed. Are you teaching me? Are you preparing me for the past? Or are you preparing me for the future? And I was like, what is going on? I was like, out of the mouth of babes. Oh my God, that was so profound. And that child had just come along. No one told her that. She just kind of came up with that herself. And that's how I keep saying that this new generation that's coming up is so much better prepared than your generation or my generation or our, God forbid, our parents or grandparents' generation. These souls coming in now are kind of pre-programmed in many ways at the factory to handle this consciousness, this shift. They are not even acknowledging a lot of times what was going on in the past, like racism and a lot of the things, these systematic things that we grew up with. They don't even look at that. They're just like, that doesn't make any sense. You want me to work in a factory for 40 years and then just retire at 65 and get a watch? Like, are you kidding? We don't even get the watch anymore. Like, so it's just a really interesting story.
It's beautiful. And my sacred higher self was telling me that child represents what all children will be. And it also represents, and when I was speaking earlier, the channeled message earlier about not focusing on the negative, you need to know what's happening, but then you move into clearing and seeing the better world. And it's beautiful that that child is pointing out, look, you're still giving us control and boxing us in. That's what you're teaching us by these pictures. So just beautiful.
Now, finally, I'm going to ask you what I always ask channels. Does your entity or entities have any parting messages for the audience? You did warn me that they could talk for 30 minutes on one subject. So is there a short message that somebody on the other side, your higher self or somebody, would like to say for this audience about what we've just been talking about?
This is my sacred higher self speaking, and it's directed to probably about 60% of the people who will view this show. And because my sacred higher self is connected, because it's in that field, right? Anyway, they're saying that if you take anything from the messages you have heard today, please be inspired and be inspired to take action. It is time to stop being a window shopper and just, oh, here's another spiritual class. Here's another spiritual podcast. This is good because it helps you in the vibration, helps you hold the vibration. But it's time for you to then take those messages, whether you relate to this channel, Peter, or any of the other guests that Alex, or any of the other channels that you work with. It doesn't matter who you relate to. You know who's right for you. Take that action. Make it your commitment to yourself. There's no right or wrong. You can come around the cycle as many times as you want, but you're on the planet now. You signed up to be on the planet now to be part of the ascension uplift. And this is the time for everyone to step up. So take the commitment to take action. The action we recommend is clear, clear, clear. Every single channel that I, Peter, give, and this is what my sacred higher self says, and saying it again now, clear, clear, clear. Find those densities within yourself. Love them. Express them. You don't kill the dragon by cutting its head off. You love it and allow it to have its full expression. The thing that you're angry about, the thing that you're upset about, that you're jealous about, give it that. If you need those processes, we have been guiding Peter to provide those in many, many ways. You can find those in your internet links that are going to be connected with this program. But find what is right for you and commit to taking action. That is the parting message. This is all hands on deck time now. Now, there's no going wrong. We're going to make it. It's not the fear thing like, oh, if we don't get this many people by this date, then humanity goes back into another dark cycle. It's not going to be like that. The question is, do you want to experience it in your lifetime, or do you want to come back? Do you want your children to experience it in their lifetime, or do you want to spend hundreds and hundreds of years as this progresses, because everyone still thinks this is somebody else's thing and that I'm not the special guy with the podcast or the special show or have the special link to the channel? No, this is your time to claim it and be it, and those tools are being made available to you.
Beautifully said, Peter. Beautifully said. Now, I'm going to ask you a few questions I ask all my guests. What is your definition of living a fulfilled life?
Living a fulfilled life?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So one of my favorite teachers said life is for living.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough.
And I like that thing, because what happens is when I fully experience something, it turns to bliss. So it doesn't matter what I do, as long as I'm in alignment with myself and experiencing fully, which is the heartache, the pain, the love, the taste of what I'm eating, the feel of my toothbrush. As long as I experience things fully, I will be in a bliss state. So living a fulfilled life would be completely experience what is in my field.
If you had a chance to go back in time and talk to little Peter, what advice would you give him?
So I already did, but not me consciously. My sacred higher self. I was 6. Okay. And I had a real serious illness, and I was just not in school, and I was lying in the sun on a daybed, just being sick. And this voice comes to me. It was the first time I heard a voice. And this was a voice. This was not an energy squirt. This was a voice. And it said, don't read philosophy. And I'm like, I didn't even know what philosophy was. I'm 6, okay? And so since then, it's been with me. And the whole point of that message was, don't let someone else be your authority. Don't just read the book and say, so-and-so said so, and they've got a PhD, and therefore it's been published and it's been 100,000 likes. Don't do any of that. Trust your own inner self. This is the time to claim your authority. That would be the message. Don't read philosophy.
How do you define God or source or spirit?
So I use those all interchangeably. Source, God, spirit. I use those all interchangeably. And, it's unknown and unknowable. So cramming it into 3D is always a challenge. So that's something I'm not going to try to do at this moment. But I can tell you this. I am a fractal of God. You are a fractal of God. So if I want to define God, I'm just looking at you, Alex, and everybody who are out there who's looking at us. You're looking at God. And when you look in the mirror, you're looking at God. You are imbued with God's stuff. All right. All of creation is the Godhead. Therefore, you're part of creation. Therefore, you're made out of God's stuff. All right. Now, that is consciousness, existence, and bliss, if you want to get esoteric about it. And so that's what I would define it. As long as I'm in alignment with those qualities, then I'm experiencing God fully.
And what is the ultimate purpose of life?
Life is for living. So the way I understand it, Alex, is the divine was a singular entity at one point. Okay. And because it was a singular entity, it could only go within the sphere of its knowledge and thing. So it had to create a system to grow and expand, because that's what we all like, is adventure and knowledge and stuff like that. So it fragmented its consciousness into individual pieces, gave those fragments free will to do whatever it wanted to do. No structure or stricture, the codes of this is right or wrong. None of that, even though we've applied it on there. And then said, go experience. And what happens is when we complete an experience, when we fully have the experience and it turns to bliss, then it connects back to source, and source gains the wisdom that we gained, and source grows. So literally, we're the eyes and ears. We're the expansion of the Godhead through our process of living. So our purpose is we're little Godbots out there growing and being more, creating more of creation in this beautiful expansion of the universe. So that's how I understand purpose.
And where can people find out more about you and the amazing work you're doing in the world?
So the center site to go to is becomingawesome.one.one. It's not a .com or .net, becomingawesome.one. And there you'll be able to find out about my book, weekend intensive classes that I offer. I do transmissions on every couple of months. I'll do Q&A and do transmissions because I've been gifted with the abilities of one, awakening, and two, the ability to transmit it, and other different things. We have a TV show just about transmissions. You can find that all at becomingawesome.one. You'll want to link to the YouTube channel, which is Becoming Awesome on YouTube, Peter D. And they would get a weekly message from my sacred higher self for uplift. So it would be great if anybody wanted to connect in those ways.
Peter, it has been a pleasure talking to you, your higher self, and all the other wonderful energies that you brought to this show. So thank you for the amazing work you're doing to help awaken the planet and help in this coming shift that we are going through. So I appreciate you, my friend. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. It's my honor to be here. Blessings to you and everybody viewing this just in this moment. I'm feeling the connection. I hope you are. Thank you. Bless you.
Thanks for watching. Click on one of the videos below to continue your journey, and don't forget to subscribe.